All right, let's pick up here with part two. So again, we left off talk about Joseph Stalin. Now let's get to Adolf Hitler here. So after World War One, the political and economic chaos in Germany will lead to the rise of new political parties, both on the extreme left and the extreme right. Now remember, the political and economic chaos. Some of that chaos was caused, yes, by the Treaty of Versailles. With Germany having to pay reparations, but then also the Great Depression occurring. I'll put some stuff on Google Classroom for the Great Depression. Whenever we think about the Great Depression, obviously we think of the United States first. However, again, it was depression throughout the entire world economy. So Germany was also hit by this, accompanied by the Treaty of Versailles. Now, the Nazi Party was nationalistic and then also anti-communist. So again, going against the viewpoints of the Soviet Union. Now, Adolf Hitler was a member of the Nazi Party, and he calls for unifications of all Germans underneath one government. Now, remember, with the Treaty of Versailles, Germany had to give up some of their land that they had previously gained. Now, the problem is, even though countries came in and said this is no longer part of Germany, a lot of those people consider themselves still to be German. Okay, so again, Hitler wanted to unify all of the German-speaking people underneath one government. And he believed that certain Germans were part of a Aryan or a master race that was destined to rule the world. This whole idea of social Darwinism, that the Aryans were better than everyone else, therefore it is their duty to go out and rule the world because they are the strongest and smartest people, is what they believed. Now, while imprisoned in 1923 for staging an uprising at a beer hall in Munich, Hitler will write his famous book called Mein Kampf, and again, that just means My Struggle in English, in which he'll outline his future plans and his philosophies. Now, he wants Eastern Europeans to be enslaved. He viewed Eastern Europeans, whether it be, Poles, people in Yugoslavia, Soviet Union. He views them as inferior to his Aryan race. And he blames Jews for many of the world's problems. Again, we'll get to more of Hitler's hatred for Jews later on. We have a whole separate lesson just over that stuff. So again, we'll hit back on that later on. But he wanted to conquer Russia for additional land for Germany's expanding population. This is known as Lebensraum. So he wants to conquer Russia. So when his Aryan race does take over, they have additional living space for them to live in. Now, when he gets out of prison, Hitler and his Nazis will actually try to gain power democratically through the Reichstag, which is Germany's parliament, or think of like their Congress, their government. He'll actually gain votes for the Nazi Party, and you can see that in the video that I will also post to Google Classroom called The Rise of Hitler. Definitely take a look at that. It'll kind of show you how Hitler was able to kind of rise to power even more too. But he's able to appeal to the common German people because of everyone's hatred of the Versailles Treaty. Remember that made Germany pay these reparations. They had to give up their land. They had to give up their army, their military. So again, because of people's hatred for the Versailles Treaty, he's able to kind of use that as a scapegoat or a rallying cause to get everyone on his side. People also fear communism and then promises to end the Great Depression. So really the rise of Hitler kind of happened at a perfect time, when people are losing money, whether it be to the Great Depression. Over 6 million Germans were unemployed at this point. The fear of communism is coming in and spreading. And then also the Versailles Treaty, where people are angry at the countries that signed this treaty. So Hitler's going to use all that to his advantage to gain popularity. Now, to kind of put in perspective here to show how badly the Treaty of Versailles hurt the German government, let's take a look at what they did. So because of the reparations that Germany had to pay, they actually began printing off an excessive amount of money. And what that does is their money is German mark. Their German mark would be worthless. Again, if you have nothing to back that money up, it's basically just pieces of paper. It doesn't really mean anything. So in 1920, okay, so 1 year after the Versailles Treaty was signed, 40 German marks equal just $1. 1922, 18,000 German marks equal just $1. In the year of 1923, so 4 years after the Versailles Treaty was signed, in order to buy a loaf of bread, you needed $5 million, 5 million marks to buy a loaf of bread. If you take a look at this gentleman up here, you can see him carrying an entire wheelbarrow full of cash just to buy a single loaf of bread. In 1923, in order to get $1, you needed 4.2 trillion German marks. So you can see that the economy in Germany is completely dismantled at this point, and people will turn to anyone that promises to help boost the economy and get Germany back on track as one of the most powerful nations in the world. So again, all of this was perfect time for Hitler. So after winning a majority in the Reichstag again, which is their parliament in 1933, Hitler will be appointed chancellor or the prime minister of Germany. You have stormtroopers, not these guys down here, but stormtroopers would intimidate voters of other political parties, okay, whether they be a communist or any other type of political party. And the Reichstag will give Hitler dictatorial powers, which he'll use to destroy any political opposition. So anybody that was not a part of the Nazi Party could then be imprisoned. 1934, Germany's president will die, President von Hindenburg, and Hitler will take over his job as well and becoming the Führer, which just means leader. Now, Japan. Okay, so we've mainly focused about Europe, and again, we'll do more stuff with the Japanese leader as well. But Japan also is not inept from they still are going through the Great Depression during the same time period as well. Because Japan is a resource poor country, it's kind of hard to grow a lot of different things in Japan. They depend on trade. And this is also during the time of Imperial Japan. We talked about, one of the main causes of World War One was imperialism. When your country goes out and conquers additional territories to use for your home country, the mother country. Many Japanese officers and businessmen want to seize territory outside of Japan to gain much needed resources. So in 1931, the Japanese army, actually without the government's permission, will invade resource-rich Chinese province of Manchuria, which you can see right over here. Now, the military will take control of Japan by intimidating the civilian government. And Emperor Hirohito, who you can see right down here, he will actually not protest that either. Okay, so we kind of just hit on Japan very briefly there, but I will put more information on here. We'll talk about, I'll put like different biographies, Venn diagrams of, these leaders during World War One or World War Two. I'm sorry. And we'll kind of do more information with that. So continue to check Google Classroom. I'll put some more stuff on there. And as always, if you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email.